So this is the PSA JAKL, and I've currently got about 650-ish rounds through it right now. And then we are gonna compare it to another piston-driven gun, the BRN 180S. If you are interested in checking these guys out, the very first link in the video description. Long and short of it is, this is kind of an AK/AR-15 hybrid. Jackal actually takes the things that we love about an AK and they integrate them into the AR-15 style platform. But in addition to adding some AK-47 bits into the AR platform, they also added some other cool features that you don't typically see on an AR-15, nor do you typically see them on an AK. So the PSA JAKL is currently available in 3 different colors. It comes in black, comes in OD green, and it comes in flat dark earth. It also comes in 2 calibers. Currently, I have the 5.56 variant, and it also comes in a 300 blackout variant, which we'll cover a little bit more here in a bit. The 5.56 variant comes in a 10.5-inch barrel, and the 300 blackout variant comes with an 8.5-inch barrel. The bolt is made of Carpenter 158 steel. The carrier is made of 4340 steel. The barrel is made of a chromoly vanadium, and the 5.56 is a 1-in-7 twist rate, and then the 300 blackout is a 1-in-8 twist rate. And as you can see on the upper here, this is a monolithic upper, meaning the entire upper receiver and handguard are all one integrated piece, which adds quite a bit of rigidity, and it also allows you to put lasers and IR lasers on here and not have to worry about losing zero because of movement between the handguard and the upper receiver, but we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in a minute. The thread pitch on the 5.56 variant is 1/2 by 28, meaning it'll accept any 1/2 by 28 muzzle device. And then the 300 blackout has the 5/8 by 24 thread pitch, and it will accept most 30 cal muzzle devices. So at the beginning of the video, I said that this integrates a lot of the features that we love about the AK platform and integrates them into an AR-15 platform. One such feature is the ability to shoot it while it's in the folded position. The second benefit is a long stroke piston system. Now, whenever you're talking about piston styled guns, whether they be ARs or AK style guns, there's 2 main types of piston systems. There's the long stroke, which is what is in the AKs and what is in this system. And then there's the short stroke, which is what is in most other guns that a lot of people are considering to be competitors to this, but they're not really direct competitors because most of them are short stroke. The main difference between a long stroke and a short stroke is a long stroke, the piston and the rod and the bolt are all one single unit. Whereas with a short stroke system, it's usually composed of a couple of different parts. Now, the benefit of a long stroke is because of that added mass of being a single part from the rod all the way to the bolt, it increases the momentum of the travel of the bolt, which typically results in increased reliability. However, that reliability comes at a cost. The other benefit of a piston system, specifically the long stroke piston, is all the heat stays out here at the end of the gun towards the gas block. Whereas with direct impingement, a lot of the heat that is out here will travel back into the bolt, and then the bolt will also get hot. And then the third benefit of a long stroke piston or even a short stroke piston is they typically run a little bit cleaner. Most of the carbon is going to be out here under the handguard, and none of the carbon is really going to be back here into the action of the gun. Now, one of the downsides to a long stroke piston is specifically on the AKs is if you look at the slow motion footage here, I borrowed this over from the Larry Vickers channel. You should go subscribe to him. Only reason I wanted to borrow it is I don't have a slow motion camera that's this good to capture this. But when they're shooting it without the dust cover on, you'll notice how as the bolt is coming back, it's moving up and down. Then as the action is about to go back into battery, you can see the piston bobbing up and down as it goes back in. And that is one of the reasons why the AKs have a bouncy recoil to them or a jerky recoil. However, with the PSA JAKL, they have eliminated the bolt piston bounce. Now the action cycles in a perfect linear fashion and it knows no longer any type of rod bounce in it. Third thing that they've added is an easy to adjust gas system. There's 4 positions, which are all used for something different. Now, there was a piece of paper that came with this, and I've since lost it, but it tells you what the gas settings are recommended for. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because in real world, I ended up using totally different settings. But according to the sheet that was in the box, it says that position number 1 is for steel case ammo and for target loads of 55 grains and less. Second position is for heavier grain trained 223 and 5.56. The third position is for fine tuning 5.56 NATO. And then the fourth position is ideal for suppressor use. Now, when we get into the shooting footage, you're gonna see how these recommendations for the gas settings didn't really apply. So as a result of the piston system and the easy to adjust gas system, this makes the Jackal an ideal candidate for suppressor use. Additionally, one of the things that I said that I didn't like about the AK earlier is that the charging handle does reciprocate under fire, and this charging handle doesn't reciprocate. Additionally, it is ambidextrous, meaning you could take this off of one side, install it on the other side. That way you can set it up to fit you in the way that you like to operate a firearm more comfortably. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that its main competitor is an FN SCAR. I've even seen people take the PSA Jackal, get an ACR stock that goes on here, and then they get this Haga Defense brace conversion, and they can basically make it look like a mini SCAR. The only downside to that is, number one, the ACR stocks aren't being made anymore, so good luck finding one. But the other downside to doing something like that is, even if you could find an ACR stock and get the brace adapter, it's gonna cost you upwards of $400 to $500 just to do an ACR style brace on here, which is quite a bit of money. In which case, you might as well just SBR this thing and put a stock on it anyway. If you remove the monolithic feature though, this gun isn't anything like a SCAR. A SCAR is a short stroke system. This is a long stroke system. So this is what I was talking about earlier, being a long stroke piston system where the piston and the bolt are all one piece. And so when it's under recoil, this entire assembly moves backwards. Then the short stroke system, this is the one from the BRN 180, this one comes apart. And so when this recoils, the piston isn't actually attached to this, the piston's attached into the upper, and so only the bolt moves, but nothing else. Because of that, these are gonna operate with a little bit less recoil than the long stroke system. The cool thing about this is you don't have to get the entire gun. You can literally just pick up the uppers and slap them onto any lower receiver that your little heart desires. But there are a couple of pieces on here that are going to be proprietary that would have to be picked up in addition to the upper. The one piece that is proprietary is going to be our bolt catch, but the good news is when you get the upper, the bolt catch is included with the upper, but the bolt catch, there is something different about the way it's designed, and so you would need a different bolt catch in order for it to work. The other piece that is proprietary is this rear piece right here. You can see on the inside of it right here, you have your standard where the buffer tube goes, and then this is like a shroud adapter that goes around, it kind of goes into here, and then it just bolts right up. And then you have these Picatinny sections right here for your brace and or stock if you choose to SBR this. Aside from that, this thing is completely just a standard AR-15 lower, which is pretty awesome. Now, you don't technically have to use this particular adapter from PSA. This one has an adapter that came from K&S Arms. This is the one for the BRN 180S, but you could see here how this the recoil spring back here is exposed. It's not a big deal. It will still function flawlessly, but you know, dirt and debris could get down into there, which is why they made this adapter with the shield portion up at the top and on the sides to prevent dirt and debris from getting into your upper. So although this particular adapter is not necessary, it has a function to it and it makes it look a lot cleaner as well. Let's talk about what the shooting experience is actually like at the range. For the optics on this, I have been playing around. I have the Viridian GDO 25 green dot on here, and then I played with a couple of different flip out magnifiers. I have one from Primary Arms, but I will say that this guy from Holosun, I don't know which particular model it is, but it's the cheapest magnifier that I have right now, and it has the best eye relief. And it's easy to see through. The eye box is actually a lot more forgiving than other 3X magnifiers that I've had. But personally, I would rather have LPVOs, but I was just testing these to see how I felt about them. So on my first trip to the range, I was using 55 grain PMC ammo 223, and I had this in the 12 o'clock gas position, which is the position that they recommended that you shoot 55 grain from. And I noticed that it was slightly overgassed. My ejection patterns, casings were going quite forwards. Now in that first position, I noticed that the recoil was quite jerky, especially for this caliber of, 223. 223s can shoot incredibly flat when set up correctly. This one just didn't. It was kind of jerky, kind of similar to the AK. And it was like, man, I don't know if I like this. But I forgot that this gas system is adjustable on my first range trip. A little caveat to adjusting this: you can adjust this using a screwdriver, a punch, or you can even use a 223 5.56 round, stick through there, and you can adjust it that way. And so on my second range trip, I put it onto the second setting and it shot a lot softer. Then I put it on the third setting, which is supposed to be reserved for 5.56 NATO, but I was still shooting 223 55 grain PMC bronze. And this thing shot so much smoother and so much better. You know, on the first range trip, I liked it, but I was like, man, this thing's kind of like a bucking mule. Like, why would I want to shoot this over a standard AR? But once I got that gas system all dialed in, I started liking it a lot better. And then it made me wonder what it would be like in 300 blackout. Now, during my range sessions, I put close to 650-ish rounds through the Jackal, and I didn't have a single malfunction the entire time. You know, when it was overgassed, yeah, it was a little bit jerky, but I didn't have a single malfunction. I only tested it with 55 grain ammo. We will be changing that up as we get the 300 blackout version in the future. Tested it with a bunch of different magazines. I tested it with P mags, Lancer mags, some of the Dura mags that are metal, and then I tested it with some ETS mags. You know, them saying that the long stroke piston system increases reliability seems to be true. I didn't really test accuracy on this. I just shot at my steel silhouette from like close to about 50 to 75 yards away. Once I figured out my point of aim, point of impact, I hit the steel every single time. Now, with that being said, I wasn't trying to figure out what the sub MOA accuracy was on this because number one, it's a pistol with a 10.5-inch barrel. And number two, it has the long stroke piston system, which makes it less accurate anyway. But from other people that I've spoken with that I trust, that I know are really good marksmen, they tested theirs with multiple types of ammo. Some of the best groups were about 1.5 MOA, you know, 1.5 inches, up to about 3 inches in MOA. And just for reference, the mil-spec MOA on a 16-inch rifle is 4. And so this is doing better than mil-spec, but it's obviously not going to be an MOA gun or even a sub-MOA gun. So now let's talk about how this gun shoots in comparison to the BRN 180S. Now, I built the BRN 180S a couple of years ago, back in late 2019 when they first came out. And this was designed after the AR 180. And a few key differences of this one versus the Jackal. Number one, this is not gonna have a monolithic upper. This is a two-piece system. However, they did a really good job at creating a very secure handguard for this. The second difference is this one uses a short stroke piston system, and this one does have a reciprocating charging handle. But the saving grace to this reciprocating charging handle, this doubles as your brass deflector. And so if you remove that, then you wouldn't have a brass deflector. Another big difference is this one doesn't get quite as hot. You can shoot a lot more rounds through this before it gets hot, and even when it gets hot, it doesn't get hot enough to burn through your glove. The other difference is this is far lighter in weight, but the PSA Jackal is a full pound heavier at the same exact size of barrel length. The other difference in this one is it's much easier to shoot quickly, but not only shoot it quickly, but shoot it quickly accurately. But this upper on the BRN 180 is about the same price as this is, so keep those things in mind. Now, one of the things about the calibers on this, and this is one of the biggest comments that I've seen from people, is they said it would be better in 300 blackout. And a lot of people aren't aware, but the 300 blackouts are currently available. But despite the fact that you can get this in 5.56 and 300 blackout, I still find it odd that you can't get it in 7.62. Now, on the BRN 180S, this thing can be had in a ton of different calibers, including 300 blackout, 223, but they also have this one available in 7.62. So if you are wanting to go into that type of caliber because you love it so much, this would be the way that you would have to go with that. Let's go over the pros and the cons of the PSA Jackal. First, we'll talk about the pros, and then we'll talk about the cons. Pro number one, I like that you have adjustable height on the stock or brace, depending on which way you want to run this. Instead of worrying about riser mounts for your optics, which can be kind of pricey, it's nice to be able to just adjust the height of your stock or brace very easily. Pro number 2, as we talked about earlier, is the rigidity of the monolithic upper. Number 3 is in regards to other types of piston-driven guns, this is one of the least expensive options that is available right now. Currently, a full PSA Jackal is about $1,000 to $1,100, depending on which variant you get and which color you get. But as I mentioned earlier, you don't need the entire gun in order to run this because they run on a standard lower. The other pro about this is because it's integrated into the AR-15 platform, it will accept the majority of your AR-15 upgrades, specifically in the lower receiver in regards to your magazine release, your safety, your trigger, and your grip. The next pro is they have eliminated the bounce in the long stroke piston, resulting in a little bit smoother of a recoil impulse versus an AK. The 7th pro is super easy to adjust gas system, making it an ideal suppressor host. Now, what are the cons to this guy? It gets really hot. Let me be more specific. It gets annoyingly hot, and it can get hot to the point where it goes through your glove. See, ooh, that got real hot. That actually started going through my glove. You could see me hitting my hand like that. And I can see that this is gonna need some kind of M-LOK heat shields for it if you're gonna shoot it like that. Con number 2, the brace that comes with it does bend under recoil. Maybe a sturdier brace would be nice. When compared to direct impingement or even a short stroke piston system, it does have a lot higher of a recoil impulse. And as a result of having a little bit higher recoil than say a short stroke or a direct impingement, it's not as accurate. The next con is because of the increased recoil, it's kind of a difficult gun to shoot fast accurately. You can shoot it fast, just can't promise you're gonna hit. And the 6th con is the weight. Stripped down, the 5.56 version in a stripped down form, meaning no optics and no magazine, comes in at 6.9 pounds. Just for reference, my Geisley Super Duty, which is a 14.5 or a 14.9, I don't remember, I think it's 14.5, only weighs 0.1 pounds more than this thing. And this is almost a full-sized gun. With the red dot, the magnifier, and an empty magazine, the weight of this jumps up from 6.9 pounds to 8.16 pounds on a 10.5-inch pistol. That's quite heavy. And the other downside is this thing is mainly front heavy. The back of it isn't so heavy. Basically from the magazine forward is where most of the weight is, making it not the most ideal gun coming up from low ready or coming up from high ready. It's just kind of strange and it's a little bit off balance. Now, when I compare it to the weight of the BRN 180S, which is essentially exactly the same size. They're both 10.5-inch barrels. In the stripped down form, the BRN 180 weighs 6.23 pounds. And I weighed it using this angled foregrip and this little Picatinny piece because I just didn't feel like taking it off. So I'm sure if we remove those two pieces, it'll probably come in closer to 6 pounds on the nose. So almost a pound different between the short stroke system and this long stroke system. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would I rate this? I would rate it about a 7. But you're probably wondering, well, what would make it a 10? I think a better muzzle device so that it will shoot a little softer and a little bit flatter, a more rigid brace that doesn't bend, and or converting it to an SBR and putting a stock on it would definitely help. Number 3, and this is probably the most annoying one, better heat management. I'm gonna order some M-LOK covers and try to do something about the heat up here because like I said, it does get hot to the point of going through my Victos gloves, and that's saying something. But if we could fix those 3 things, this would be really close to a 10. Now with that said, I'm not gonna recommend that every single person and their brother rush out and buy these. These are made for a very specific type of shooter. So who are those people? This is more designed for the kind of guy or girl that likes to shoot suppressed at night using nods and an IR laser. If you're not that kind of person, you might not see that much benefit from shooting something like this. The main benefit that you would see if you're not the kind of person that shoots suppressed and shoots at nighttime is gonna be being able to fold this and store it away in a backpack or in your truck and being able to shoot it in this position. The other benefit you might see is it'll be a little bit easier to clean the bolt, but aside from that, you're not gonna see much benefit of this versus a standard AR pistol. And if you're the kind of person that would love to have a standard AR pistol that can shoot in the folded position, Law Tactical just came out with the ARIC, I don't know how you say it, maybe it's that, ARIC bolt carrier that will allow you to take any AR pistol and shoot it in a folded position. I'm gonna work on getting one. And so I guess the ultimate question is this the ultimate gun to buy in 2023? I think yes, depending on who you are. This gun is designed for a very specific type of person to fulfill a very specific type of need. So if you're the type of person that likes to go LARPing and shoot suppressed with night vision and IR lasers, then this might be the perfect setup for you. Especially because you can get the upper for around $800-ish and put it on any lower that you want. This might be the cheapest way for you to do that. So although this isn't my favorite AR-15 to date, I do think it's a very important AR-15 in its current configuration. Because nobody else has done anything like this, especially at this price point, this might be the gun to get in 2023. But although this isn't my favorite, if you want to see what my current favorite AR-15 is, check out this video right here, and I go into a lot of detail on why this is probably my most favorite AR-15 of all time. But until next time, guys, I love you, and you guys stay sexy.